All right. Again, thank you so much. So silent now. Yeah. Welcome to Poshmark. And we have the panel from Poshmark here. For those who don't know Poshmark, Poshmark is a social e-commerce marketplace. We specialize in apparel, high-end luxury goods. And most of you are women here, and a lot of women tend to know Poshmark. So if you don't know, definitely check it out. We went public in 2021. We went private again in 2023. The power of the Poshmark is in the community. So there's a huge community of sellers and buyers who transact on this platform. Again, Poshmark is a technology provider. We get buyers and sellers together and make the commerce happen. We have an amazing panel here. So what I would like to do is I would like to, I'm Sharan. I run security for Poshmark. Yeah, I would love the panel to introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dhanya. I'm a senior engineering manager here at Poshmark. And my team, they're like engineers who help us to deliver like different kind of like features and user-friendly features and everything on the web platform. Yeah, that's about it. And I'm excited to be here. Let's see how it goes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Divya. I've been at Poshmark for about 2 years now, and I'm a part of the site reliability engineering team, and I also help out with some dev operations. I'm super excited to be a part of the panel today and excited to meet everyone after.
Hi, I am Lauren Serrano. I have been with Poshmark for 8.5 years, and I work on the fraud team. Specifically, my team handles account security, so account takeovers and multi-factor authentication, all that falls to us. And yeah, I'm also very excited to be here on this panel.
Yeah. So when Kelly asked us to, can Poshmark do a lunch panel? Can we have a diverse panel? Unfortunately, the security team here working in this office did not have any women. So I said, oh, how do we create a panel? Then I was thinking, how do we do that? And I realized security is everyone's responsibility. And we work with quite a few different teams to implement security, to help on security. And then we have this very diverse panel where we have engineering team, site reliability, fraud, what have you, where we all collaborate together to make the whole security happen. So very interesting panel. Thank you all for accepting to be on this panel. The first question, maybe this is for you, Lauren. How does your job role intersect with security, and what are some of the key security considerations you take into account in your role?
My team is, security is our best friend. Before we had a security team, it was a lot of reactive work. And we count on the security team to put up all of these walls before it gets to our team, really. Like we get the trickle through of like loopholes that might have been missed, and they are responsible for creating the walls to stop the scammers. And we've worked with them to create our own account takeover model. And it was very flawless. Thank you. And they're the people we go to first. And our job is literally just security every day. We make sure that our users feel safe on the platform, which is incredibly important. And without the security team by our sides, we just wouldn't be able to do that with how big Poshmark is now. So,
Divya?
Yeah. So in the SRE and DevOps space, we help with a lot of security operations. So first we have infrastructure security, and that is securing our cloud platform, which includes servers, networks, resources. Some of what I do is looking at OS level vulnerabilities, making sure that our resources have the most strict level of permissions, doing version upgrades to make sure that the tools and packages we use are compatible with the most secure version. Then we also have deployment. So that is automating some security testing into our CI/CD pipelines, working with dev teams whenever we have a new application, doing the system impact review, looking for security loopholes there. We also do identity access management. So that is just making sure that we're enforcing strong authentication and then also granting and revoking access as needed and on time. And then lastly, more on the SRE side, we have monitoring. So that is just looking at loggings, metrics, alerts. If an incident does happen, responding to that incident, applying our learnings there. And then I guess another part of it is compliance, which is just making sure that we align with data privacy regulations.
Yeah. So on a day-to-day basis, we need to cover a lot on the security, and it's one of the key factor on the security, the development process itself. So our team, we just need to make sure that we, as a team, we follow the security best practices, and we do the code reviews just to make sure that everybody's following it, and whatever we are releasing to production, we are taking all these security measures. And if you see some kind of like a vulnerabilities during the development, how we can tackle that before that gets into production. So those are like the key factors. And we have developed a process where we could do all of that as part of our day-to-day development. Then the other thing would be we have this production life cycle, right? So we just need to see how we can really collaborate well with the security team, how we can bring them on board to the life cycle early on, right? So during the design or architecture phase, we just need to get the input from the security team to see the approach we are following. Are there any security risks or any vulnerability you see, right? If we have something, we need to get the early on feedback so that we can incorporate that into the design and development, so that these kind of things doesn't reach the production or the final product, right? So those are like the one of the things. So the key factor over there would be having the communication and get how we can bring in the security to this development cycle. Then the other thing would be like how we can have enough monitoring around the different critical pieces of our application, so that we don't miss out a lot of stuff there. Then have a proper process. Let's say if you reach the security team, then they probably come up and say that, okay, these are the different vulnerabilities or the requirements, how we can prioritize that so that our team can proactively or in an iterative manner, how we can tackle those ones. Yeah, so.
Thank you, amazing. So we have all the different teams who collaborate on a day-to-day basis, right? So if we don't do our job well, then Lauren teams takes a big hit. You see a lot of things down the funnel. And yeah, Dhanya and team, they help integrate security into the product development lifecycle. And again, here Divya is helping us to automate all the tools and take care of our cloud infrastructure. So the next one, I think this is for you, Dhanya. So we all know about Security Champions program, right? I mean, we use that as a strategy to scale security and integrate into different processes, be it SDLC or infrastructure, right? And there is another school of thought where security can be integrated deep into the life cycle. Security folks can be part of these processes and then provide the best practices, right? So how do you think about security being part of this processes, integrating deeply into the SDLC or what have you, right? Versus the Security Champions program, like we really finding a champion in your team or group and then really empowering them, training them, right? So what do you think is better? Is it security being part of the process or creating a Security Champions program?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So these are like the different kind of thoughts, right? And I would say one approach where how we integrating the security into the process, right? Where we bring in the security team early on in the development cycle, and we can get in all the inputs, the necessary inputs, and we can have the security fixes or the necessary measures so that before the issues get into production or anything like that, right? So it's basically like a preventive mechanism. And when we do that, there are like a lot of, so we just need to have the communication, the collaboration with the different stakeholders here. So it kind of create a sense of security into the mindset, right? When you are thinking about a feature. So it's kind of like become a shared responsibility then people feel that, oh, okay, yeah, I'm thinking about this feature, but is it secure enough? And can we release this to production? Or how much risk we could take here, right? So those are like the different aspect of it. Then we're talking about these championship programs where you can involve the development team a little more onto that, right? Here, instead of purely depending on the security team to do all the job, instead you can actually nominate someone from your development team, and they can be the champions. We can train them, and they will know the secure coding practices, and they can be when they're doing code reviews, they can just making sure that these practices, whatever we need to follow, they are following, and what are the different steps or how to train the new engineers joining the team and everything. So these are like the two different things, I would say, based on the organization and how many resources you have. You can come up with like what works best for you. It could be a combination of both the things, right? If that works, then just go for that. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because since I joined Poshmark, I've seen the size of our security team doubling. And being in DevOps and SRE, I always thought that we had the fun job where we get to interact with all of the different engineering and dev teams. But I think security likes to give us some competition with that. And not only do they interact with all engineering and tech, but also all of the other teams we have here at Poshmark. So that just kind of goes to show how cross-functional the security team's role is. I think in terms of having a deeper integration into the business teams, I think that's not possible without having a security champion on each team at some capacity, just someone who's there to loop in security at the very least whenever there's any important discussions happening or any decisions being made. I think in line with that recently, we've seen a lot of new roles come to rise, like DevSecOps engineers, application security engineers. Just these roles are there in place. So at any team, during any discussion, there's a security perspective on the table.
Amazing. Thank you.
I feel like I can't add anything. As you said, pretty much everything, where we have somebody from security and or fraud involved almost every step of the way to just point things out.
Yeah. Yeah. And all the three panel members you have here are all security champions advocating for security in their group. So yeah. So the next one, Lauren, this is for you. You can start this one. Can you walk through a suspicious login from the time it's identified and till it's mitigated, how we all collaborate together to remediate like a suspicious login?
Yeah, this is a great question. It's something I've dealt with for 8.5 years here at Poshmark. And it's honestly, my team, we're pretty much the last of the steps. When there's a suspicious login, and I will let both these lovely ladies describe what their team does as far as that goes. Luckily, now that we have a whole security team and engineering and people working on this, they work to block it very quickly. And my team takes care of the ones that trickled through or the ones that are the one-offs that didn't flag anywhere. And my team is incredibly compassionate, and we talk to the users and help them learn their own security as well. We are working really hard right now with the security team to create more education for our users, because I think that's incredibly important. You have people who don't understand that you shouldn't have the same password across every single online platform. So with suspicious logins, when it comes down to us, we work hard to make sure that our users still have faith within us, even though their account got taken over because they use the same password everywhere, or X, Y, or Z, or they gave somebody their password. So yeah, we try to instill more trust in our users.
Yeah, I think from the DevOps side, first we see the first step is obviously identifying and detecting the incident. This can happen as a call out from the fraud team or through if our system's facing the impact, maybe through any monitoring or metrics that we have in place. Once that's been identified, the first step is the immediate mitigation, which involves maybe blacklisting the IP or disabling the compromised account. And then the next step, which is true for any incident that we face, is doing the RCA or the root cause analysis, just seeing if there's anything we can do better, we could have reacted faster, just applying our learnings there. And I think here it could just end on like maybe a note for the future or maybe fixing a vulnerability or even down to a code patch.
So my team comes here. So when there's an incident going on, and we just need to see where the issue is. It could be like, what's the downstream impact of this issue, right? It could be at the system or the infra level, or maybe it's at the application level. So once we do the analysis or understand, so we have different ways to understand the user pattern. We have like logs, or different events the user has performed. So we could see what are the things they have done, and just to understand from it. And for the immediate remediation would be like maybe change the password or something like that, just to secure the account. But on a future level, we just need to understand from this incident and how we can prevent that in the future. So if there is a system or the infra impact, then what are the necessary measures we should be taking there? Then look at the application side and see how we can prevent this, or like how we can prevent the issue in a smaller level so that it can be contained. So all those necessary measures we probably need to implement as part of our application itself, then adding more logging or like monitoring wherever required, and having the alert systems so that in the future it's similar kind of like attempt app happen, then it will be like automatically we get that kind of like an information immediate, so that these kind of things we can prevent in the future, right? Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I mean, we all work together so closely to remediate these account takeovers. Again, Dhanya is helping us to prevent account takeovers from happening by enhancing the platform, remediating any vulnerabilities, doing session management, what have you. And then we have Divya from our SRE team, who is helping us implement WAF, a lot of protective technology on the infrastructure layer that are bypassing application layer controls. They also help us implement quite a few monitors. Like, let's say there is suspicious account takeover happening, right? And how do you detect that? How do you alert that? So we take advantage of a lot of tools that observability team has built, and we get alerts from there. And then we always try to learn from Lauren, because they are the ones who will see the ultimate downstream impact if all these controls don't work together. So amazing. Yeah, Divya, this question is for you. The next one: how can diversity help with improving security collaboration between business and technology?
Yeah, I think like in any field, diversity allows for a more productive problem-solving approach when there's people from different industries and backgrounds coming together. I think that leads to more out-of-the-box ideas, and especially in security, which is a really innovative and quickly growing field. I think having people from different domains and backgrounds is really helpful in avoiding groupthink and coming up with new ideas that are unique and fresh. Yeah, and even like with us for this panel, you can see it takes a village. We have Lauren from fraud, I'm from technology, Dhanya's from engineering. And I think just overall having diverse teams can help understand the needs of our diverse customers and our diverse solutions better.
Thank you. I love that answer. To add to that, you need people from different backgrounds, just period. Not just from different teams. Like with fraud, I know our users like the back of my hand. I've worked with them for so long. I understand how they think, and working closely with engineering, with technology, with security, I feel like, our team has a unique perspective of like, here's fraud, and then here's how our users think, and here's how they're going to react to like something happening. And as far as diversity in general, I mean, I'm always a huge advocate for having women at the table because the more heads and the more different ways that different people think, that's the best. There are times where I think I know an answer. I go to one of my team members and I'm like, hey, I think I have an answer. And they're like, oh, but you forgot about X, Y, and Z. And it's like, oh, that's correct. Okay. And yeah, having more people around to just be like, oh, you forgot about this. Okay. Yeah. Good point. That's the best.
Yeah. So my perspective, I think I just agree with them. So yeah, having a diverse team can bring in diverse ideas to the table, and we can collectively make decisions which agree to the user group we have. So any applications or ours, especially the user group, what we have, there's a diversity there itself. So you are providing to them. So you just need to make sure that you understand their needs, right? So to understand that, you need to have that kind of like a diverse city in your team itself. So it's a valid thing, and in this changing world, right? If you have a diversity in the team, and you can bring in this kind of like ideas, adapting to the newer changes, it becomes much easier, because if one person didn't get that, the other person can always chime in saying that, oh, I know this, or because I come from that kind of a background and I have experienced it, and this is the way we should be doing it, right? So it'll be like easy to tackle. We really don't need to wait that long to do the catch-up game and telling or having that understanding from our end users to come and tell us, oh, this really didn't work for me, right? So those kind of things we can always integrate. Then people have more trust in us and saying that, oh, they kind of like created something where they feel these kind of people are belong, and I'm kind of like going with them. I have the trust in them, right? Yeah. So the exactly same thoughts. Yeah, just one point to add.
I can't emphasize more. I mean, we collaborate with everybody here, and then the diversity brings the best from all of us. So I can't agree more on. The next question. Dhanya, how does your team balance the need for rapid software development with like the weekly releases that you have, and the need for robust security measures, right? And how do you think about this, and how do you find a happy medium?
So we have an amazing security team. So we work with them. They kind of like, whenever we say, oh, there is, can we do not we say, they just take the proactive actions to come up and say, okay, these are like the different risks we have, or these are the different vulnerabilities we have on our product, right? So they can go and create a number of like bugs or like the tickets for us, right? And we just need to see like how we can balance it out, because we are actively working on delivering features to our end users, and we can slow it down. That's our business. And we just need to kind of like find the balance over here. So we already have a Scrum, the Agile methodology, what we follow here. We have a Scrum team. So it's easy to integrate these kind of requirement as part of this iteration. So it doesn't feel like a overwhelm for the team, and they can actually understand, like we set the risk levels from the security team, we work with them, and they can, based on that, we can come up and set the right priorities and see how we can actually take care of that as part of the release process. So I would think as such, like how you're releasing or improving your user experience on our product, right? We are releasing different features or improving the user experience. So similarly, I think we should think about the security as well, as and when we develop, how we can improve the security on an ongoing basis, instead of, yeah, I'm just done with all the fixes. Let me forget about security. It doesn't like work that way, right? So you have to be having that mindset of thinking about security is an ongoing thing, and the world is changing. The malicious activity we're seeing, those are changing. So we need to be smart enough to understand the new landscape and change our patterns and come up with like a monitoring we need to improve, or the process we need to improve. Let's do that, right? So that way it becomes easier than having a good partnership with the security team and bring them on board to the entire development cycle, have that collaboration. They are the experts, and we can really collaborate well with them to get all the inputs and implement them early on. Yeah. You have it.
Yeah, I think from the DevOps side, we focus a lot on automation. And I think the same applies when we're working with security. So automating whatever we can, just so we kind of have processes in place and we can kind of not worry about that. And just being more proactive, since automation allows us to be more proactive and things are automatically happening without us having to worry about it. Another thing I can think of is, I guess, infrastructure as code. I think that is really helpful in having consistent configurations. So if there is a drift, we can identify any manual or undocumented changes that were made and kind of call that out, either remove it or review it, see if you want to keep it, just to avoid any unintentional vulnerabilities that could be introduced. And then going back to logging and metrics, another really important part. I think that just helps us analyze anomalies, any unexpected patterns. And I think oftentimes there could be certain security incidents where you could see the system could be facing the brunt of the security incident. The system could be silently going down. And without having the proper monitoring or alerts in place, you wouldn't know that until we hear it from the end user, which is something we would definitely want to avoid. So
I don't have a lot to add here. We are really great about balancing what we ask for of the engineering teams and all of our products teams. And if we can find a good way for us to kind of go around and figure it out until they can fix it, that's the way that we go. We have a lot of different third-party companies that we use as well. Because with, as you said, like sometimes, or at least back in the day, we didn't have a lot of monitors and we would have to wait. We'd suddenly get 200 cases of, hey, this isn't working. And that definitely didn't work. So I'm very thankful for all the monitoring we have. We don't have to do it manually as much. But yeah, my team works really hard to make sure that we can find any other solution before having to like make any major engineering changes.
Yeah, just add to that the same thing. Like, so the automation plays a big role, and we know like there are different tools available or the defending mechanism we could have at different places. It could be like a WAF or like it's a firewall, or maybe at the API level securities or some other things, right? Or the different areas, probably like a on a code level, you can have like a static code analysis tools available, or maybe we are, as a development team, we kind of like get these different third-party libraries into our application. So how we can scan that to understand if there is any vulnerability with the packages we are including an application early on. So there are like different tools available, and we could always integrate that with our CI pipeline, so that whenever we make a code change, we can easily figure out these kind of like vulnerabilities exist, and we can take the preventive action, right? So that one another aspect, automation is, if you can do that, that's one of the best thing possible there, instead of purely relying on a manual stuff.
Thank you. Security teams, I mean, we always try to enable other functions. We try to make developers' lives easier or anyone's lives easier, right? We always try hard, but we always are perceived otherwise, right? What would you like the security teams do to make your lives easier?
File less bugs. No. Yeah, I would say like security team, I think we really rely on them because of their expertise itself, right? They are focused on, and I think before we had security team, it's all a shared responsibility of engineers or the developers. And it's easy to miss that because you never have that nominated person who can advocate for the security, right? So having a security team definitely help us, because they know where the vulnerabilities exist, and they probably do like a threat modeling or like a penetration testing to understand those things and tell us, okay, these are the things available and what are the tools available to mitigate that, right? Maybe like a manual thing is one, then they could propose, these are the tools available. We can get that and evaluate that and see if that fits for our use case and how we can integrate that with our process, right? And also evaluating like as part of the requirements, we just need to have the security requirements there. So if you have a separate team who can take that kind of a role, then they can always push the business or the product managers to think from that perspective, and they can actually pair with them to incorporate that in the ideation process itself, right? And but during the mitigation also, like we can pair with them to see like what is the best possible way to mitigate those kind of like vulnerabilities. So I feel like it's kind of like a partner to work together to provide like a best user experience to our end users. Yeah.
Looks like you're very happy with what we do. Do you like to see something different? No?
It's good.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that all teams have a common goal, which is to not make security an afterthought, because I think that leads to more work for everybody. And I think something that is a great first step for doing that is just having a process in place, learning from previous projects or something like that, and just kind of documenting what the process is and the expectations from all of the stakeholders. Yeah, and then I think it's also important to consider that every team does have their own priorities. For security, their priority is security. For maybe DevOps, it's general dev operations. So I think having that document in place could help kind of set some non-negotiables and have security involved early on. And then lastly, there's also, again, a lot of vendors available in this marketplace. So for something that the company just can't handle, the teams can't figure out, I think it's a great idea to kind of also look into those to see what can be done better or be outsourced.
Yeah, to add to that, security has been great. My team is very focused on user facing. And before that, it was, us going to the engineers and the engineers, saying, okay, well, I don't know if we have time for this, but security always has time for security. So our top priority is pretty much exactly in alignment. So it's very nice to have like a go-between that understands the more technical side, but also understands, the more user-facing side. It's a nice balance that security has, and they're able to help us push forward a lot of projects that we weren't able to push forward before we had security, because they were able to help explain why we need it. So I think all in all, you guys are great.
Looks like security is doing great here. Just want to open it up for any questions.
So many of you mentioned that you didn't used to have security. Security is fairly new. So my question is, how new is your security team, and how did you manage to get it to be such a cross-functional collaboration? And you did also mention a security champions program, and I wondered if that was an internal thing or like a thing in general. So
I can answer that question. And so security is maybe 3.5 years old. The bulk of the work happened over the last 2.5 years, right? I would say the management wanted to invest in security, right? So they bought in security folks, they invested in security, they invested in security tools. So we definitely got support from the management, cross-functional teams, and everybody. So we were able to really like create a roadmap for like 2 years. Then we said, okay, we have a 2-year roadmap, but now what should we do in the first 1 year? What should we do in 6 months, right? So we had to create those roadmaps, get support from different stakeholders. I mean, here we have a very great culture. Everybody is very supportive. So that really helped us implement a lot of security over like 2.5 years, right? And again, when we implement security, it's a risk-based approach. So we're not saying, oh, we need to be PCI compliant. Here are this 250 controls we have to implement on every product, right? It's a risk-based approach. We take one control at a time. Let's say we want to implement very simple things like code scanning. We figure out what technologies we use, what is the right tool. We do a lot of due diligence on procuring the tools or creating a process, what have you. We make sure that it is least impactful to our partners. And that approach really helped us collaborate with them better, and then bring that perspective that, oh, we are trying to help you, we are trying the best we can to make it easier and smoother. So just building that culture and trust really helped us.
I was going to add, we were very tired as the fraud team because, every single morning for 7 days a week, because it's not like fraud ever rests, I would log in to see, okay, did we have a login spike? And if we did, I had to find an engineer that was like available, who knew how to do blocking things and to help me out. And I had to raise a bunch of flags. And this way we have a whole team that has processes, that has manual reviews. We have more than like 3 people who are doing it, which is the best part. But yeah, I think that, like you said, everyone very much wanted a security team. So it was once you guys came in, it was like, oh yes, we all want to work together to make sure we understand and make sure you understand like what we need as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't have anything more to add.
Okay. Any other questions? One. Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone. I know this is hard. This is a lunch panel, and you have been an amazing audience. Thank you all. Thank you.